Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ontario Cryptids. First of all, thank you everyone for the well wishes. I'm feeling a lot better today, but I'm still having a lingering cough, which I'm hoping does not interfere with today's episode. I have finally figured out how to thank all of you for not only surpassing the 1,000 subscriber mark, but also for receiving more than 88,000+ views in the month of March. Next week, I'm going to be telling at least one encounter stories. We'll see, maybe 2 or 3, but that depends on the length of the timing of the video. I will also be showing 2 video clips. One of them is going to be a viewer's choice. Many of you had sent in your favorite Sasquatch video when I did my 100 episode. So I will be picking one of those randomly to view, and will be giving credit to the viewer who sent it in. Also, I am going to be showing one clip from myself. Now, this one here, you've probably never seen before. Anyways, stay tuned for that one. I think you guys are really going to enjoy next week's episode. Again, I do want to thank everybody for your likes, subs, and comments these last few weeks. It is truly appreciated. Okay, let's get on to today's encounter stories. So today we're going to be going all the way over to Alberta, Canada, where I have 3 encounter stories to share with you all. Now, I'm always looking for encounter stories to share on my channel. So if these stories remind you of an encounter that you may have had and would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story with like-minded people. Okay, go grab yourself a beverage and get cozy in your favorite spot and sit back and relax. Okay, so this first encounter story takes place in September of 1993. It takes place in Clearwater, Alberta, and the nearest town is called Nordegg. And I hope I pronounced that correctly. Now, this area here used to be not used to be, it is now a ghost town of Alexo. So why don't we get to the story? My sighting took place at a little camping site called Camp Alexo, west of the Rocky Mountain House, east of Nordegg, around 10 years ago. The sighting took place when we all decided to take a walk one night. We all headed down a hill past the boys' cabin. We came to a set of railroad tracks and turned left and started heading to an old cemetery we were all told about. We found the cemetery and we all explored. Some of the graves were from the 1800s to the 1900s. After about an hour, it started to get dark, so we all decided to head back. As we were going back up the tracks, we all of a sudden heard one of the girls scream. When we all turned around, we saw her flashlight shining up on this old tower. I wasn't ready to see what I saw, and to this day, my hair stands on end when I tell this. But on top of this tower, which itself was about 40 to 50 feet high, stood this creature. When we all shined our lights on it, it proceeded to jump off this tower. When it raised its arms to jump off, you could clear as day see the hair dangling from its arms. But what gets me is how it could jump off this tower like I was jumping off a 1-foot-high curb. After it landed on the ground, it took off into the bushes. We could clearly hear trees breaking as it ran away. All of a sudden, there was silence. Then about a minute later, there was this loud, eerie, high-pitched scream that just went right through you. I know this was 10 years ago, but I know what I saw. Until the day I die, I will say it was him. In the main cabin, there are articles and pictures of sightings from over the years around that area. This second encounter takes place in the month of February between the 10th and the 17th of 2007. This takes place in Rocky View County, Alberta, and the nearest town is Cochrane. This took place in February of 2007 during the week of the 10th to the 17th. Not certain which day now. But at that time, approximately 2 p.m. in the afternoon, myself and a couple of buddies were four-wheeling on a trail in the Waiparis Wreck area, heading from north to south. We were coming up on the first creek crossing, just rounding the corner, and as I was scouting ahead, I noticed that someone was standing on the trail ahead of us across the creek. This person was wearing all dark, seemingly almost reddish clothes, and appeared to have on a big parka. I stopped and was watching this person, and I saw that it was looking at us, but it was all one color. Distance was approximately 400 meters. No discernible features were noticed other than the one-piece color and no light-colored face like I would have expected. This watching went on for less than a minute when it turned its head, took 2 strides and disappeared into the dense part of the brush off the trail heading east. Both my friend and I looked at each other and commented on how weird that seemed. What struck me at the time was how smooth these 2 strides were. They were graceful. At the time, I just chalked it up to being a person, as it wouldn't have been the first time I had seen someone walking around there in the winter, but normally they stay on the trail. It wasn't until about a month ago, after seeing a special on TV about a Sasquatch, that it hit me. The GPF creature walked the same way this thing did. I haven't really been able to put it out of my mind since. There is no doubt in my mind that this was unusual, and at the time both my friend and I commented on how weird that behavior was for a person. From my perspective and looking at all the sightings in Alberta, it could very well have been a Sasquatch. Unfortunately, we did not look for tracks or any other evidence since at the time we just thought it was a human. But the stride never did strike me right. In my estimation, it covered about 20 to 25 feet in 2 strides. Also, I am not unfamiliar with the woods. I have traveled and camped from Waterton National Park to past Grand Cache all along the forestry trunk and side roads for the last 20 plus years, and have never seen, smelt, heard, stepped in anything that I could see for certain was unknown. After I had discussed with the other witness the events, at which time it became clear that he was watching a different animal person, as mine left the trail to the east and his left to the west. I did not notice his animal, and he did not notice mine. He was parked behind me, I was leading, and we were communicating via CB radio. Okay, so here's the last story of the day. This one takes place around April the 7th in the year 2004. We are going to be going to Peace River County, Alberta, and the nearest town is Grand Prairie. I was working as an emergency medical responder in the oil field, sitting on the site for a gas well workover near the western end of the Red Rock Road. The job was ending due to spring breakup, and road bans were partially on, preventing the moving of heavy loads during the day. At this time, the partial bans allowed heavy hauls from 0 to 700. My consultant had directed that I be the last person to egress. The last lowboy on site was having issues with tie-downs, and that delayed his departure from location until approximately 3:30. Everyone else had been off-site by 100. I held at location for 20 minutes past the last truck's departure, hoping he would stay far enough ahead of my medical unit to avoid it being peppered by rocks and frozen mud chunks, meaning I entered the red road at approximately 400, heading in an easterly direction. I had been on site since 700 the previous day and was going into my 21st hour of being awake. Because of this, I was being extra careful to pay attention to both sides of the road, maintaining a speed of about 30 to 40 kilometers per hour, hoping to give enough reaction time to brake for wildlife popping out on the road in front of me. There was a fair amount of wildlife in this area: deer, elk, lynx, moose, black bear, and even encountered a grizzly sow grazing grass in a ditch by the side of the road in this area the summer before. My MTC Mobile Treatment Center was mounted on the bed of a 2,500 Dodge Ram 2004 extended cab PU being powered by the Cummins diesel. I was keeping the high beams on. Their lights were illuminating the entire road bed, the snow ice berm, and out another 10 meters both sides of the road. I remember passing the area where the service rigs camp and have been set up to the left of the road, thinking it looked pretty empty and deserted. I could make out the area because of the ambient starshine that, along with a few centimeters of snow on the ground, helped give shape and shadow to the snow berms, stumps, trees, and gravel patches of parking area of the camp. A few kilometers past the rig campsite, the red rock does a gentle S-curve through a strand of mature timber running along both sides of the road from approximately 500 meters. After this, the red rock comes out on a flat area where the road, Beaver Road, branched off from the right heading south. From there, it graded left curve, dropped in a wide arc at about 4% grade to cross a single-lane temporary bridge over a creek. After crossing the bridge, the road swung in an arc to the right, climbing back up out of the creek's floodplain, again at about a 4% grade. I'm pretty short, 5'2", and occasionally, if the grade was steep enough, I would not be able to see the road directly in front of my rig until I started to level out. Because of this, I had slowed to about 20 kilometers per hour. As I topped the hill coming up on the creek, and I was just about to accelerate when a solid 5-point elk came from the right side of the road, hopping over the berm and landing not 4 feet in front of my fender. It scared the stuffings out of me. Braking hard, I was glad I had slowed down. I then noticed the condition of the elk. He takes about 2 steps coming to a full stop right in front of my rig. Looking closely at the elk, I can see that he is winded. His nose is up, almost like he is going to bugle. His antlers are laying almost parallel to the line of his back. His tongue is hanging out of the side of his mouth where it is clearly visible to me, and the eye that I can see is rolled back, exposing the sclera. I'm thinking, what the heck? It's not rut. Why would this animal be acting like this? The elk stood there for 3 to 5 seconds panting, then dropping his head into a normal walking position. He walked slowly off to the left side of the road. My experience with elk and deer and roads has always been, if there's one, there are usually more. So before I started forward again, I did a check down both sides of the road, looking off as far as my headlights allowed, looking for any other eye shine. And that's when I saw it. The Red Rock Road, like most gas field roads, had an 80 to 100 meters of clear cut along the right side of the road to allow for the laying in of a pipeline to carry the gas from the wells in the field to the plant. On this section of the Red Rock, the right-of-way was cleared of timber, but the tree stumps were still in place, which is the usual condition when the pipe has yet to be laid. The stumps were the gray-brown of trees that had been dead for several years. Between the starlight, the headlight, and the snow, I could identify stumps and the bottom part of the tree trunks of the standing timber at the back of the clear-cut right-of-way. Finishing the scan, I had looked forward down the road, and just when I was about to drive on, I caught a motion in my peripheral vision on the right, drawing my attention back to that area. At first, I thought it was just a tall stump, as it appeared a bit taller than another stump nearby. A slight breeze moved the fur hair of this taller stump, and it sort of shimmered like the hollow tips on a grizzly's coat in the truck's headlights. Looking closer, I now see what appears to be a round head, no face visible, and two round shoulders. The width from outside shoulder to outside shoulder had to be at least 3 football helmets wide, at least 1 meter. The bulkiness of the shoulder should have been another clue that the shape of this form was not that of a bear. This was my aha moment, and I'm now thinking I know what was making the elk run. A bear, and by its coloring, a grizzly. I feel the puzzle has been solved satisfactorily and start to move forward. That's when it stands up on 2 legs. When I say stands, what it does is it unfolds in a smooth and easy motion, no swaying, no side to side in the way a bear does to keep in a standing position. I'm still thinking grizzly bear, based on its estimate distance from the side of the road, about 10 to 12 meters, the brightness of the area being lit by the high beams, and how the upper part of the standing form fades into darkness, I would guesstimate the height to be 7 to 8 feet. It turns its upper body towards the east, and even though I cannot see the face, I get the feeling it's looking forward down the road in the direction I'm headed. I have the impression of the head, but it's all enough that the upper thirds of the body fades into the darkness. That being only slightly a different dark than the standing timber several more meters behind the form. Thick, dark bluish black for trees and dark blackish brown for the upper part of the creature. The left arm is long enough that I could see the range of motion, shape, and the large shape of a hand in the light of the high beams. This is why I say arms. It was a hand and not a paw. The arm was longer and the hand was lower than where a human's hand would rest beside a human's thigh. I am beginning to be overwhelmed by the feeling of uneasiness, like I should not be sitting still and that I really should start driving away from this creature. My heart is racing, my hair is on end, and I think, oh my God, as I start carefully forward, half expecting to see another one step up to the road. It takes me a few minutes to think, but I believe I had just seen a Sasquatch. From the time I braked for the elk to the time I felt compelled to start driving was probably no more than 20 to 25 seconds. Wow, I don't know about you guys, but these were another 3 fantastic encounter stories. From the first one where, a group of people are out at a cabin, strolling along, looking at old cemetery gravestones, and on the way back, if it wasn't for that one girl who screamed, nobody would have seen the Sasquatch on the tower. Interesting, though, that it climbed a tower, but more interesting was the fact that it jumped off that 40, 50 feet tall tower. And the next story was also interesting. The fact that these two buddies are four-wheeling. Actually, it was more than two buddies, but it was two guys who actually saw the creature, and he thought they were looking at the same creature, only to find out that there were two, and they were looking at two distinctly different Sasquatches. Very, very cool. The last story was interesting in the sense that, that's a pretty interesting job to have at an oil field area, being an emergency medical responder. But having to work those kind of hours is insane. And as you can tell, this happened early in the morning. I believe it was around between 4 and 5 a.m. that he witnessed, he or she, not 100% sure whether it was a male or a female because of the height. But wow, what an encounter that would have been, seeing a Sasquatch in the side of the road just all of a sudden stand up, thinking first it was a grizzly bear, while your head's still trying to tell you, hey, that's not a grizzly because of the size of the shoulders, but your brain is going, okay, no grizzly. In any case, very, very cool experience, all three of them. So I hope you guys enjoyed these three encounter stories. Next week, we're going to show two clips, one from a viewer of their favorite Sasquatch clip, and the other clip is going to come from me. And I said it's going to be a little bit different. You're going to have to wait and see what I mean by that. And also, we're going to share an encounter story, whether it be from an old newspaper article, magazine, or someone's personal encounter story. So don't forget to tune in for that next week. If these stories reminded you of an encounter that you may have had and would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be more than honored to share your story on this channel. Thanks again, everyone, for listening until the end. I truly appreciate it. Please hit that like button on your way out and smash that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Have a great weekend, and I hope to see you all next week right here on Ontario Cryptids.